It's ready to go. So, remember, the only real way to control this is a little bit closer, a little bit farther away. Someone take it off like me, way back here. Softer voice that goes closer. Push it to the knees. You need to take your finger off every word. So, there we go, guys. Maybe the question I can remember.
Oh, yeah. I see. And right over there. Okay. All right, thank you. She still has somebody up here. Okay, good morning, everybody. Excuse me. I'm Lori Pearson. I'd like to welcome you to the 2012 Career Tech Overview. First, before we get started, I'd like to introduce our exam team. Sandra Lee, Chris Norris, he's the newest member to our team, doing a wonderful job. Tanya Cox, Loree McKinney, and Marcy Cunningham. Many of you have seen or received emails from Marcy. Marcy is your Career Tech contact person now that Kyra Tyler is out doing inspections. So you should be seeing emails. You should have received emails from Marcy, and if you have not received any emails from Marcy, her email is going to be up on the PowerPoint, as well as she does have business cards up here, and it would be very helpful for you to email her so that she has your contact name and email in her distribution list so that we're sure that everybody is receiving information. Over on this side, we have Paula Samples, who is takes care of the pre-scheduling, and Shelley Billingsley is taking care of the internship program. So all the forms that are sent in for the internship would now go to Shelley Billingsley, and we will go over some of that information later. Today we're going to be going over the cosmetology practical information, the theory information, as well as the exam policies and procedures. We do have a few changes that'll start the first of the year, so we'll be touching on all of those. And just for your convenience, you may have all found it, but restrooms, if you go out this door, down the hall to the left are restrooms. We will take a short restroom break after we finish the practical and theory portion before we get started with the policies and procedures. And before we get started with the official presentation, I'd like to introduce our Executive Director, Mr. Jim Tracus.
Thank you and good morning. Welcome everybody to Columbus. We're glad that you're here, and we want to thank you for all that you do every day. I don't know if everybody gets a chance to do that with you, so thank you. You make young people's lives a lot better. You create careers. You are able to be the answer to dreams, and we really appreciate that. We have had, since last time we all convened, you all know we put together a new test. And now we've been working, blowing a lot of money on making sure that the testing system works. And it doesn't always work, right, ladies and gentlemen? But we're trying very hard to do that. Actually, we're trying to put together some upgrades to our system to make sure it goes quicker, smoother, and we also put together a new biometrics program so that when your students come in, we're able to put them, make sure that they are who they say they are. And so far, the system's worked rather swimmingly since we got it put together in September. A couple of big picture items that I wanted to go over with you. As you might know, the State Board of Cosmetology has really focused on continuous improvement, trying to always maintain a high level of service to you and our community. That's what has necessitated some of the changes that you may have seen. We hope that these are all positive and work in your best interest. We do ask for feedback. If you think that some things we're doing aren't necessarily better, or you like the old way, or you think there's a better way, please let us know. We're very open to ideas, and we want to make sure that we're serving you. We understand something. We work for you. Many state agencies work for the taxpayers of the people of Ohio. We don't get a dollar from the people of Ohio. We get it from the licensed professionals of the state of Ohio. And so we always want to be, cognizant of that. And we try to make sure that we are doing things that are in your best interest at all time. We have other areas of continuous improvement that we are continually working on right now. Two things that are of note that I'd like you to pay special attention to. House Bill 453, sponsored by Representative Cheryl Grossman, who is from Grove City and was the mayor of Grove City when we built our testing center and headquarters office, is pending in the Ohio Senate. It makes some upgrades to Ohio's cosmetology law. Not much of it impacts career tech and vocational education per se, but it is a piece of legislation that has some changes to cosmetology law. It gives our board a little bit more power and ability to modernize our statute quite a bit. But one thing that has been very, very important to our board and is becoming a new duty of our board is the combat of human trafficking. And Governor Kasich has made this a major priority in the state. He has issued an executive order about human trafficking, and he would like to assure that our board has some powers to address this type of an issue. And there are theories that it goes on in salons. We know that through fact that has happened in the past, not recently in Ohio, but throughout the country. So one of the things that House Bill 453 gives us the powers to go into facilities right now who are not currently regulated by the state, and to do an investigation and inspection. So that's something that's pretty important to us. It also really prioritizes education, in my opinion, because we really truly believe that education is power, and power is money. And for our licensees. And so we want to pay special interest. We're asking for 4 additional hours of continuing education for independent contractors. We are also asking for the ability, rather than to give a fine to a salon or a licensed professional, or to have a large fine, to have them take something called a corrective action course, which would be a learning experience for them. If you violated state law on this topic, then you get a chance to learn about it for a couple of hours, and hopefully you won't repeat that type of behavior. So we're trying to focus on education and improving that educational skills. There are other issues related to the bill. It's pending in the state Senate before the state Senate Committee on State Government, and I wanted you to be aware of it. You're all citizens of Ohio. If you have an opinion on the bill, you can contact our board. You could also contact your state legislators in the Senate. And hopefully we get the bill passed by the end of the year. And it leads to the second thing that we're trying to do. We are trying to update and clean up and modernize our rules. Our agency rules have never gone through a categoric change. And so we are trying to address this by, the governor has put together something called the Common Sense Initiative, CSI. And the Common Sense Initiative says that rules of state agencies should make sense to citizens. You don't have to have a Juris Doctor to understand what the rules are. It should be plainly written, easy. It should not be a burden for you as a licensed professional in the state to be able to meet these regulations. And it should not be overly expensive, because we want to make Ohio a place where you can do business and employ people without having to be a significant burden. So we have undertaken to change the rules, and they are on our website, and I think you all know how to get to our website, but if you don't remember, it's www.cos.ohio.gov, and then there's something called Rule Review when you go to Rules. So please take a look at them. We're looking for feedback from you. If there's something you think that's out of line, or you always said, gee, I wish that they wouldn't do that, well, now's your chance to take a look and do that. Our board has to vote on this, and then it will be, hopefully we'll present it to them by December. It's already pending. And we also have, just so you know, we're going to have a new board member coming in representing Career Tech. Bunny Neal, who's done a fabulous job for us the last several years, did not reapply to be on the board. She's run really a model program in her school here in Columbus, and we're going to miss her. But we will have a new person, and the governor has an opportunity to appoint somebody, and that appointment, Bunny's term runs out at the end of October, and we'll see after that when the new person is going to be able to come onto the board. And lastly, but certainly not leastly, we at the state board have been trying to look at all of our best practices, what we do. And earlier this year, you got an email from Lori Pearson. She says, well, we want to look at, the state board has a course outline that we'd like to we put together. And then from that course outline, you come up with curriculum at your school, and then you send it back to us. we, for many years, just automatically approved them. I can honestly tell you that I don't think we read them. And we weren't doing our job. So we decided we should maybe start reading some of these that came back. And combined with that, our board, some of our board members had a suggestion that perhaps if, and this is just a suggestion and it's not something that's going to happen per se anytime soon, the suggestion was, well, maybe if we took Ohio and made it an 1,800 hour of instruction state, then we can get rid of our manager's mandate that is in the salons. We also think that it might discriminate against students who graduate with 1,500 hours, and they may not be able to gain employment as readily because they're not able to work by themselves in a salon. During that investigation, Nicole, who used to work at the Department of Education, no longer works there, came to us and said, well, I don't think most of your career tech schools can go to 1,800 hours because with all the new mandates that have come down since 2003, when you first changed this rules, on mathematics skills, on science skills, on English language skills, and in 2014 on business school skills, they're not going to be able to meet 1,500 hours. In fact, it's a challenge to meet 1,500 hours, and there's some very creative curricula that's out there. And so we understand that message. So we have opened up a conversation with the Department of Education and with Kat Marriott and the group so we can come up with a comprehensive change to our course outline that we hopefully that you'll like. It'll be something that's more realistic. It's something that I think the students would like as well as you. And what we are contemplating going to, and the board has not voted on this, and nothing would happen until 2014 or 2015, because we realize that there's got to be a lot of debate and discussion on it. But what we're contemplating doing is addressing this by saying, instead of having a very strict clock hour program, we would try to go to a competency-based system of testing so that we can make up hours that way. And so the Department of Education likes the idea. We would like a lot of feedback from you as to how we could be able to implement something like that, but we try to be realistic. And we know that there's only a certain amount of hours in the day. We also know that there's other coursework that your students have to take. And so we are cognizant of that. We're open to suggestions. We are going to be meeting here in several weeks with the Department of Education, try to kick off those talks and see how something we can do that can be effective, and we certainly would like as much feedback as possible on any type of proposal. There's some ideas pending right now, but again, these are the beginning of a discussion on this. We would like to make sure that the education that you're providing is valuable and also realistic. And if we're trying to set goals by law or by policy that aren't achievable, then we should reevaluate our laws and policies, because we have to make sure that they reflect what the reality is of today. So that discussion's ongoing. There's been no decisions made, and we're welcome and open to hear your views on it. So with that, I want to thank you for attending today, and thank you for all you're doing. Your students come in, you come in with them. They're bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, and ready to rumble, and we certainly appreciate that. And there's a lot of new little entrepreneurs running around out there living the dream because of you. So thanks very much.
Okay, before we get started and before the examiners start going through all the practical task lines with the test, I wanted to go over what we call consistency standards. Consistency standards are a set of guidelines that all the examiners follow when evaluating a candidate. These standards ensure that all candidates receive a fair and impartial evaluation, and it allows the examiners to evaluate strictly based on a set of guidelines versus opinion. So obviously when the examiners are evaluating, as you all know, as educators and evaluators yourself, they do have to evaluate what they're seeing that the student has completed or how they've completed it. But there is a strict set of guidelines that they use. It's a book called Consistency Standards, and it gives them a reason for every task line why they would give a student a yes and why they would give a student a no. Obviously, there's going to be several reasons for a no, not as many for a yes, but it is something that of the 5 of them, they all are going to do the same way. So no matter which examiner is grading on a specific task line or grading a student, they're going to receive the same fair and impartial evaluation. And this way we ensure that each time we have a cosmetology testing day or whichever type of test that we are evaluating that day, no matter what students come in, it doesn't matter which school, it doesn't matter if it's career tech, if it's private, it makes no difference. It's there, everybody is evaluated the same day. So the examiners are very, very vigilant about sticking to these standards, and they are very conscientious about making sure that they all work together and ensure that this happens on a daily basis in testing. We're going to start off with our principles and practices of infection control with Ms. McKinney. And how we will do this, we're going to have mics that we will take around out in the audience. So after each segment, if you have questions, we'll come around with a microphone so everybody can hear the question and get the answers. Lori?
Good morning, everyone. Okay, I'm going to go over principles and practices of infection control. Infection control involves the steps taken to eliminate or reduce the spread of disease and kill certain or all microbes. Levels of infection control. Sanitation means to remove dirt and debris to aid in preventing the growth of microbes. So this is basically just sanitizing your hands or washing your hands. Disinfection destroys most but all not harmful organisms on surfaces. Disinfection is not effective against bacterial spores. So this is when they're disinfecting their countertop, their drawer, and their chair before they set any items up. Sterilization, it kills or destroys all microbes. Generally, this level does not apply because the skin is not being punctured. So in our industry, we normally do not do sterilization. Exam disinfection requirements. All non-porous implements must be disinfected by using an EPA-registered disinfectant effective against tuberculosidals or effective against HIV or HBV. Different disinfectants are Marvicide, Barbicide Plus, Barbicide Wipes, Barbicide, and Citrus 2. Labeling. Use an EPA-registered hospital effective bactericidal, varicidal, and fungicidal that is mixed and used according to the manufacturer's directions. All bottles and or containers other than the original manufacturer's container shall be properly labeled. Manufacturer's label needed on the following items. So it has to be on the hand sanitizer, the disinfectants, and alcohol. We've been seeing a lot of this labeling, and they would be marked a no for this. We cannot see the sidles on the labeling. So if they have a Citrus 2 bottle, the manufacturer's label is fine. If they tape and do a handwritten label over top of that, they're going to get a no for that. We need to be able to see the name of the product, hospital grade, the sidles, and the EPA registration number. So if any of that's covered, they're going to get a no for labeling. Okay. This is also what we've been seeing for the hand sanitizer, so we can't see any of the manufacturer's label on that. Okay. Ohio Infection Control Guidelines, blood spill procedure. All non-porous implements which have come in contact with blood or bodily fluids shall be disinfected by using an EPA-registered disinfectant effective against tuberculosidals or HIV or HBV. All porous materials which have come in contact with blood or bodily fluids shall be double bagged and discarded. So we now have biohazard waste containers in both exam rooms. So if your student were to cut themselves, the universal precautions are taped on the wall, and if they're not sure of how to take care of those steps, they can follow that. And the biohazard waste containers, they'll have to dispose of their contaminated items in that receptacle. Okay. The testing center is equipped with biohazard receptacles. Candidates are required to dispose of contaminated materials in these receptacles. General infection control and safety procedures. Keep all porous items, implements covered when not in use. For example, cotton, paper towels, orange wood sticks, and files. Another example is extra combs, tint brushes, etc. Keep all dry storage areas free from dirt and debris. For example, keeping cabinets, doors, and drawers closed. Items dropped on the floor should be immediately picked up. For example, curling iron cords, combs, shears, clippies, any product, anything that's dropped on the floor must be picked up immediately.
Good morning, everyone. All right. Each exam is evaluated on proper setup, safety, and infection control guidelines. These guidelines will remain consistent throughout all practical examinations. Disinfect work area. All candidates should disinfect their stations before setting any items on top of them. They should disinfect inside their stations and on top. If a candidate places an item on top of that station, they will be marked a no in this area before disinfecting. They also should disinfect inside their stations, their curling iron bin, and their drawers. If a candidate disinfect inside their station but do not disinfect on top of their station or vice versa, they will be marked a no in this area also. Disposes of all soiled material. Any towels or paper towels that the candidates have used for disinfecting their stations, they should throw them away immediately after use. Also, any spatulas that they have used for getting barrier cream or massage cream, cleansing cream out with, they should dispose of it immediately after each use, okay? They cannot place these items back on top of the station. Also, candidates that have draped their mannequins, paper towel or a towel neck strip, if it has soiled material as cholesterol, barrier cream, or water, this should be disposed of immediately and re-draped. Sanitize hands. Candidates should sanitize their hands before getting back inside their kits, getting inside their stations, and also before they're touching their mannequin hand or head. Also, this is kind of what we see in the testing. We're having candidates, they're disinfecting their station first, and then they're digging around for their sanitizer. So they're now touching other items in their kits before they have sanitized. So the very last two things they should pack is their hand sanitizer and their disinfectant bottle, okay? Because that's the very first two things that they're going to need to use. So make sure that they are doing that. And also sanitizing before touching their mannequin hand or head. When in doubt, sanitize. Applies neck protection and drape. For their setup, their thermal curling iron, and their haircut procedure, they need to drape with a neck strip or a towel in their cape. All chemical drapings, they should drape with a cape, towel, cape. We do not care what cape it is, just as long as it's a cape with it. And it should be a towel, cape, towel. All sanitizers and disinfectants display manufacturer's label in English. As Ms. McKinney said before, we want to see the manufacturer label. We don't want to see any labels that just have been written on with hand sanitizer or disinfectant. We want to be able to read everything on that bottle. So make sure alcohol, your disinfectant, and hand sanitizer have that manufacturer label on them, okay? Following all infection control guidelines. This means making sure that drawers and cabinet doors remain shut at all times. Candidates are allowed to get in and out of their station whenever they want to, but the cabinet doors need to remain shut when they are getting out of them. This also means not laying any spatulas or anything back up on top of the station. It also means dispose of any towels. It also means do not have your students have lap towels. We're seeing this a lot. So they got the lap towels on their hands, and they're constantly wiping their hands with it. They're wiping the mannequin hands back and forth with this. That is infection control. Make sure they're not using the lap towels at all, okay? Also, any porous items, extra combs, extra files, extra orangewood sticks, cotton, paper towels, they should remain inside the station or the drawer or inside a baggie. I did have someone bring up something that's in the 2013 My Lady book, that it should not be in a or Ziploc baggie. What that is saying is, it's okay when you have a new item inside that baggie. We don't want you to put the items that you have used back inside that baggie. That's when you're getting the pathogens back in there. So when you are coming in, your candidates are coming in, it's fine that it's in a baggie. Make sure they throw it away after, okay? Maintain work area in a safe manner. This means making sure your curling iron cords are wrapped up and stored inside of the curling iron bin once they are completely done doing their thermal curling iron. If it's on the floor, they're going to be marked off for it. If they leave that cabinet door open, they're going to be marked off for that, okay? So please make sure the curling iron, once we say thank you, that means we're done with your candidate. They wrap the cord up and then put it back inside the curling iron bin. This also means anything that has dropped on the floor, make sure your candidates are picking it up immediately. If it's left on the floor, they're going to be marked off for that also. Also, this means cabinet or the jars and lids, bottle lids, need to remain on that jar and bottle. Once they are getting their items out of it, say their massage cream or cleansing cream, make sure they shut that lid back up and dispose of that spatula or whatever they're using to get that out. Do we have any questions on any portions of this part? There's a couple.
Can they disinfect their spatula instead of throw it away?
No, that is a porous item that needs to be thrown away.
Would it be acceptable for them to have the little purse hand sanitizer that goes on the strap of their kit hanging outside of their kit? That they don't even have to dig around?
Yes,
when they're
that's
cleaning their
fine.
station?
Mm-hmm. We don't want to see it. We did see this last week. The sanitizer was on that person, draped around, so don't have it on them.
I have a twofold question. When they were talking about the neck draping, I noticed in the new standards it says towel, cape, towel. Then I've heard you say neck strip.
The
cape,
neck
and
strip,
towel.
the neck strip or towel can be used with the cape for the setup, the thermal, and the haircut.
But-
All chemical drapings need to be towel, cape, towel.
Okay, that's what I want to be clear on.
Okay.
And with the garbage cans, do we still have two underneath the counter, one for your supplies and one for garbage?
Yes, for the hair portion
Yes.
side, there are two, but on the facial and manicure side, it's just one. And they're more than welcome to put 2 trash can liners inside of them, tape it in the middle, and then drape it on the outside, and they still have the 2 holes.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
When you're requiring manufacturer label, does that include the toner that you would use on the facial?
Not the toner. We're asking for the disinfectant, the hand sanitizer, and the alcohol. They can just write toner on the bottle. Okay?
Let me make sure I understand this. If the neck strip is wet, it needs to be replaced,
They need to replace it,
even
yes.
just with water.
Yes.
Do I understand for the haircut, now you want a towel on the outside in addition to the neck strip or the wubby?
Okay, real quick. It needs to be neck strip / towel. So either or. Whichever one you want to use for the setup, the thermal, and the haircut, you can use a neck strip and cape or a towel and a cape for the haircut and thermal and setup.
What would you rather see for the manicure implements? You said a Ziploc bag is good, but is it acceptable them, the implements, ow? Which would you rather see?
We rather not see implements rolled up in a towel just because it can be a light towel. Someone can still go by, sneeze on it or whatever. So implements need to be in a closed container or a baggie.
For the blood spill kit, do they still need to double bag and put the biohazard sticker on if you guys have a biohazard container there?
With that, they need to put everything inside of the bag, and then our blood spill waste container is considered the second bagging. No, they don't have to have that on there.
At setup at the beginning, do you want them to line the trash cans? Do you want them to disinfect their station, then line the trash cans, or line the trash cans before they even start to disinfect?
However you want them to do that, we don't really care if they line them first. We do care that they make sure they disinfect their station and use their hand sanitizer before touching any implements that they're going to use on someone. Okay?
If a neck strip gets wet during the haircut, are they expected to stop then or at the end of that service? Or
Yes.
cholesterol for the color or relaxer?
Yes.
At the end, they switch that
Yes,
then?
because we're constantly walking around, so they could be marked off for that.
But what I'm asking is, are they expected to stop, like if they would get a little bit of cholesterol on there, are they expected to stop and change that, or do they just change it before or at the end of the service before they move on to the next step of the exam?
They need to stop and change it.
I just heard that the PowerPoint that you have will be posted on the website. Will that be?
Yes, it will be. Yes.
With the product labeling, I understand that the alcohol must be labeled, the disinfectant must be labeled, and the hand sanitizer.
Yes, ma'am.
Polish remover still must be labeled with instructions.
Is that, you said polish remover? As long as they have polish written on there, we do take that.
Okay, because Burmax is now selling these bottles, the 8 ounce and 16 ounces that say polish remover, cuticle oil, but when you turn it around, there's no ingredients listed.
That's fine, as long as you have polish remover on there, or oil,
Okay, thank you.
cuticle oil.
Do they sanitize their hands first, then disinfect the station?
We actually give them a yes, either or, whichever way they do it. If they want to sanitize their hands first and then go into disinfecting, we do give them a yes for hand sanitizing. Or vice versa, if they disinfect first and then sanitize, we give them a yes for it. We have 1, 2 up front.
When they're working with their chemical services, the relaxer and the color,
Mm-hmm.
can they leave the brush in the product without putting a lid on until they are judged? Say thank you.
Yes, they can have the brush there for their color, for both color products. They need to remove it and get a new brush for the relaxer, and then they can leave that in there too. Okay?
My question is back on disinfecting. We always have our students sanitize their hands, put on their gloves, start disinfecting. Then they'll disinfect their whole unit. After they've got that disinfected, they take off their gloves. Then they set up their mannequin and drape their mannequin. Then they would need to disinfect again before the Marcel test starts. Is that correct?
No. Once they've disinfected their station, we consider it disinfected, unless it has become dirty with like cholesterol cream or something that's on top of that station, then yes, they need to re-clean that station. But once they remove their gloves, they need to be sanitizing their hands right after removing the glove. But this is what we're seeing a lot of, which take up your students' time. We are seeing them disinfect between each and every procedure. That is taking up some of their time. They do not need to do that. They disinfect in their setup. As long as they keep in their stations tidy and clean, they're fine without disinfecting. But if it has become dirty with cholesterol or whatever on their station, yes, please make sure they re-disinfect, cleaning their station off that it's clean.
They apply product to the back of their hand instead of using a spatula?
Yes, as long as they get it out with the spatula and apply it to the back of their hand.
Okay, they can't just squirt something on?
Yeah,
their
they can
hand
squirt too.
instead of
They
using
just
a
can't
spatula?
dig their hands in there in the
Okay,
product.
as long as they're not touching it.
Yes.
So do they have to wear gloves when they're disinfecting their station?
No.
Okay.
That first aid kit, the blood spill kit, is it just a general first aid kit?
It's
or is
just a
something
general
that-
first aid kit.
Okay.
Long as they have Band-Aids, alcohol pads in there, gloves, then they're fine.
Okay, but you said double bagged and they need to have one bag, so would they need a bag for?
They'll just need a bag to put the stuff that they cut themselves with, and they're cleaning it, put that in the bag, and then they can put it in our waste container, our blood spill container.
Okay, and the lap, were you saying for the manicure, they had a lap towel? What is
Yes,
that, in
we
their
have
lap
seen a
or-
lot of students with lap towels. Don't have your students. They're constantly wiping their hands. They come, so make sure they're not using that.
You mean they had it on their lap?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Any other questions before we move on? All righty. Oh, there's one more over here, Miss Samples or Miss Pearson.
Cuticle cream that we just put on each nail, does it have to be put onto a spatula, onto your hand, or something like that, or can you put it as long as you're not touching the bottle to, I wasn't sure if the product could come back in and.
No, as long as you're not touching that nozzle tip to the nail, then you're fine. You can just drop it on there. Any other questions? All right. We're moving on to our cosmetology practical. We will be going over the thermal curling iron, hair cutting, chemical wave, color, relaxer, facial, and manicure. I'm sorry.
If they were to cut themselves and they do the blood spill on their hand and say they got a little blood on their scissors, they're going to have to re-sanitize their scissors. So, just lay it down on a towel, spray it with a disinfectant, clean it, and then double bag that towel?
They can put that in a bag too, also, yes, because it has blood on it.
Okay.
Yes. Any other questions before we move on? Going once? Okay.
At one time, it was my understanding that we couldn't use alcohol, so are you saying we can use alcohol now?
We don't like for you to bring alcohol because they always bring it with no label. It's up to you if you want them to bring it. I don't know if they're using it to wipe off the nails or whatever, but really there's nothing in the exam that they need the alcohol for. But if it's something that you're teaching your students to use, that's fine. Just make sure the manufacturer label is on there.
Okay.
Some
so we
people
can't-
use it for hand sanitizer.
We can't use it to sanitize, sanitize metal implements?
You should be using a disinfectant.
Disinfect, okay.
Yes.
I was just curious, because everybody's, you're saying alcohol, I'm like. okay,
Alcohol
so
is
what
a
are we using?
low-grade sanitizer. It's not a disinfectant. All right, again, going once, twice. All right, we're moving on. All right, this is your setup and client protection. This is your verbal instructions, and they're read as follows. Following all infection control and safety guidelines, you will set up all of the supplies that you will use for the hair portion of your exam. You will also perform client protection at this time. You will have 15 minutes for your setup procedure, and you will be informed when you have 10 and 5 minutes remaining. This is your setup and client protection. It's kind of going over what we just went over. Disinfect your work area. Disposal of all soiled materials. Sanitize hands. Applies neck protection and drape. All sanitizers and disinfectant displays manufacturer's label in English. Follows all infection control guidelines. Maintain work area in a safe manner. Once again, any more questions on this portion? This is your thermal curling iron. This is not a time procedure. And we used to allow the candidates to practice before coming up to them, and some people were not getting enough practice time. So we decided to cut this out. So no one will be practicing anymore. We'll just walk up to each and every candidate and ask them to demonstrate their procedure, okay? You will now perform the thermal curling iron portion of this exam. Each candidate will be instructed individually to perform the thermal curling portion of this exam. Please make sure all of the steps to the thermal curling iron portion of this exam are completed. You are required to complete 1 or 2 curls. Please do not clip or pin any curls. When you hear the examiner say thank you, that is an indication to you that we are finished evaluating you and we are moving on to the next candidate. So as I said before, when we tell them thank you, that means they need to be wrapping up that curling iron, putting it back in that curling iron bin, because at the very end, once we're done with that last person, we walk around and look at each and every station to make sure that curling iron is off the floor, or cord is off the floor, and the bin is closed. Okay? Yes. She asked if they're allowed to clip any hair away to curl. You are allowed to cut your mannequin before you come. Pre-cut your mannequin, do a chemical wave on there. There is color, which I'll get to later, that we're requesting about the color procedure on your mannequin's hair. So if you want to do that, that's fine. We don't want you doing it at the exam. Oh, yes. You can clip it away. Yes, you can part off and clip it away. But if we're asking for another curl, we don't want you to. They should be able to have that curl in there that they do not have to clip a curl. So if they're doing it on top, they shouldn't have to clip another curl. And if that curl is in their way, then go to the other side. Go to a different section.
But if they want to just clip hair away so they can get to a section easy without hair falling over, can they do that?
They can clip the hair away, yes. Okay, we just don't want you to clip the curls that you actually curled.
Is it okay if, when they're done with their curling iron, to wrap up their cord around
Yes.
handle, and then put it in a towel and put it away?
We have curling iron bins that they can slide it right in there. We don't want them to put the towel on there because it's hot right now. So just slide it in the curling iron bin. It will cool off by the time we get to the end of the exam for the hair portion. All right, this is our thermal curling iron procedure. All thermal curling iron products, supplies labeled in English. Implements, tools are visibly clean. Evaluates temperature of the iron prior to curling. Section hair same width as iron barrel. Applies heat to base. Hair distributes evenly around the iron. Use comb to protect the scalp. Creates a complete curl. Form curl is smooth. Uses iron safely throughout entire procedure. Maintain neck protection and drape throughout procedure. Disposal of soiled material. Follow all infection control guidelines. And maintain work area in a safe manner. The last 3, probably the last 4, that I just went over, you'll see in each and every procedure also, okay? Any questions? on your thermal procedure. There's one here.
Are you wanting slow feed, or is slow feed going to take too long for you to watch? When you're wanting applied heat to
However you
base, that
teach
would be-
them, it's up to you.
Well, I teach slow feed, but it takes a while to get out there.
That's fine.
With the neck draping, I've taught my students, we've used the neck strip. We're using the plastic cape since hair cutting is coming afterwards, but they put a towel around it. And I test them where if I see the plastic, I take off points. Can they completely wrap plastic around as long as the towel is covered, since it is a dry service?
So are you asking if they can use a plastic cape or? Yes, they can use a plastic cape. There's one up here, Ms. Samples.
Is there no more tempering and,
No.
and heating the base?
Yes, you need to heat the base up, yes.
Oh, I see, I'm sorry.
Applies heat to base.
When they're done with the thermal curl and they wrap the cord around after you've said thank you, can they leave it in that curling iron base to cool down while they're testing the rest of the day?
Yes.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Is it okay to use a comb-out cape instead of a regular?
Yes. We don't care what type of cape you use. Kitty capes are best just because it's not dragging the floor. Any other questions? Ms. Pearson.
So you want the width to be basically like a roller, like I know the size of the iron, but you don't want like spiral, the little.
They can curl however they want to curl. As long as they're doing it from heating that base up, pulling it out, curling all the way down, putting that comb underneath. We don't care what type of curl they use.
Go to the ends, or you stop in the middle and.
They can do that too. Yep. Any other questions? All right, we are moving on. Yes. We do not want to see any shell marks. It's very easy to do. You just make sure you slide this way. I guess I can't really show you here, but little mark. You can do it. Just try to teach them over and over without leaving a mark there. Okay. It's only 1 point if they do, so.
Does it matter how your comb goes in to protect the
Yes,
scalp?
we want to see the teeth in. We don't want to see the back of the comb. We don't want to see the tail of the comb. We want the teeth in protecting, because you can still burn that scalp using the tail of that comb. That's not protecting anything. Any other questions? All right, we're turning it over to Ms. Cunningham.
Good morning, everyone. You have to excuse me. I am getting over a cold, so my voice is a little bit raspy. So just bear with me. The verbal instructions for the hair cutting are as follows. You will now perform the hair cutting portion of this exam. You will complete a blended layered haircut using shears and a razor. You will remove a minimum of 1 inch of hair throughout the haircut. The razor will be used to layer the hair from the top of the ears to the hairline. The shears will be used to complete the remainder of the haircut. Please sweep the hair from the floor when the haircut is complete. That will indicate to the examiner that you are finished. This procedure is 30 minutes. You will be informed and you have 10 and 5 minutes remaining. We'd like for you to also tell your students that they do have the entire 30 minutes to complete this haircut. Once they're finished with the haircut, if the timer goes off at that 30 minutes, we do give them time to clean up their area. The haircutting procedure is 30 minutes. All haircutting products and supplies labeled in English. Implements and tools are visibly clean. The razor. Establishes guideline in the nape area using the razor. Uses consistent subsections and partings throughout the haircut. Elevation with the razor is used throughout the nape section. Handles razor safely at all times. With the shears, uses consistent subsections, partings throughout the haircut. Elevation with shears is used throughout the remainder of the haircut. Follows established guidelines throughout the haircut. Handles shears safely at all times. The nape is uniform in length. The sides are uniform in length. Hair is evenly blended. 1 inch of hair is removed throughout the haircut. Maintains neck protection and drape throughout the procedure. Mannequin and drape and work area are free from hair clippings. Sweeps hair from the floor. Disposes of soiled materials. Follows all infection control guidelines and maintains work area in a safe manner. When they are finished with their haircut, we like for them to go ahead and if they have to comb through that head to get any hair out of the head, make sure that they wipe off the mirror. If there's hair on the mirror, make sure they wipe off the station. If they have to, they can wipe off their cape. Make sure it's all on the floor. If they need to, they are allowed to remove their trash cans from that area, move them out the way, sweep up the hair. Sometimes the floor gets wet and the hair sticks to the floor. After they sweep, they can take a paper towel, as long as it's at their station, and pick that hair up with that paper towel. We want all hair removed from that entire station before we come over. We give them time to clean their station, okay? The 30 minutes is used for the haircut, but if they get done finished early, they can go ahead and start cleaning up. Are there any questions over the haircut? No questions? Okay, I'm going to move right on into the chemical waving. The verbal instructions are as follows. You will now perform the chemical waving portion of this exam. The center back section of the head will be wrapped from the top of the crown to the nape hairline. You will be instructed by your examiner to apply simulated waving lotion to 2 rods. This procedure is 20 minutes, and you will be informed when you have 10 and 5 minutes remaining in your procedure. You are not required to part off for your 9-section partings. Please have your simulated waving lotion in hand and all of your steps completed before you have an examiner evaluate you. The chemical wave is 20 minutes. The procedures are: all chemical wave products, supplies are labeled in English. Implements and tools are visibly clean. Applies chemical draping, towel, cape, towel. Subsections are equal to width of selected rod size. Subsections are equal to length of selected rod size. Hair is wrapped smoothly and evenly around the rods. Hair is distributed evenly across end papers. End papers are extended beyond the hair ends. Bands are positioned correctly. Rod base placement is consistent. Cotton applied to protect the skin. Wears gloves to apply the simulated waving lotion. Applies simulating waving solution across the entire rod. Maintains neck protection and drape throughout the procedure. Disposal of soiled implements. Follows infection control guidelines and maintains work area in a safe manner. Are there any questions over your chemical waving?
Do they put protective cream on or just the cotton?
Protective cream is not a task in this task line, so they can just only do cotton.
Does the cotton go around the entire hairline or around the subsection that they wrap?
However you teach them, we give them a yes as long as they have cotton around the hairline or around that section.
Are they allowed to use picks?
There is no need for picks because we'll tell them to remove them if they do use it anyways. Of perm rods you're talking? She asked what color are perm rods. It does not.
Do you have to use one color or can you use two colors?
Whatever you send them with, just make sure they have enough to do that back section.
Okay.
Okay?
The bottle, does it have to be a perm bottle, or can we just label it? We can just label a bottle?
You can just label a bottle, but just remember, the hole that the solution is coming out of, sometimes it's big, and if they oversaturate and it drips, we'll give them a no for apply simulated waving lotion. Excuse me. Okay. Sorry.
For the rod width or the size of the rods, you want them large enough to wrap the hair 2.5 times around the rod. Is that correct?
Different answer.
Okay, you have to have enough to go around the rod. It doesn't say 1.5, 2.5 times. So it has to go around the rod enough to give sufficient curl. So it's not saying how many times.